So, what makes a woman decide to leave the faith she grew up with and embrace a completely new one? Today, we're diving into the powerful personal stories of women who chose Islam, trying to understand that search for meaning that leads to such a profound change in life. A lot of these stories start in a really surprising place, with a journey that just challenges everything they thought they knew. Take Daisy, for example. She was a Catholic missionary who went to Saudi Arabia with the goal of spreading her faith. But what happened? She found her own beliefs being questioned in a fundamental way. Her journey, like so many others, didn't start with finding Islam, but with some serious questions about what she'd always been taught. For many of these women, the path to Islam didn't begin with, an immediate attraction to it. It actually started with a growing sense of disconnect from their own faith. It was a deep search for something more, a real search for answers. And this really gets to the heart of the theological struggles a lot of them described. They were wrestling with big concepts like the Trinity, asking these really fundamental questions like, wait, how can God die on a cross? They felt like their relationship with God was always indirect, like they had to go through someone else. And when they brought up these doubts, the answer they often got was just to have blind faith. But what they found in Islam was the exact opposite. It didn't just allow questions, it actively encouraged them to seek knowledge and ask away. And this spiritual search often went way beyond their birth religion. Take the story of one Russian-American woman from a Jewish Christian family. She spent years on this quest. She looked into Christianity but just saw too many contradictions. She tried Buddhism, but it felt like there was no real connection to God. Hinduism's descriptions of God just didn't make sense to her. Her search even took her to atheism, which she later described as one of the darkest times in her life, leaving her feeling totally empty, like life had no point. And it wasn't just about theology, There was also this deep dissatisfaction with secular culture. Selin, who grew up in London, talked about this constant feeling of being objectified and sexualized, and it sparked this really powerful desire inside her to reclaim her own body, her own sense of self through modesty. And this feeling started way before she ever seriously considered Islam. Okay, so after all this questioning and searching, the next step is that first real encounter with Islam. For a lot of them, it just happened, kind of unexpectedly, and it offered this clarity and directness that they just hadn't found anywhere else. So what was it that drew them in? Well, a few key things came up again and again. First, the idea of a direct relationship with God. No intermediaries, just you and God. That was huge. The pure logic of monotheism, just one God, really resonated. Many were also completely shocked to learn that Muslims deeply revere Jesus and Mary, and sometimes knew even more about them than they did. It was this mix of logic, spiritual connection, and honestly, the simple kindness of the Muslims they met that started to open up a whole new perspective. For some, that connection was immediate and frankly overwhelming. Remember the Russian-American woman who tried atheism? Well, after all those years of searching, she decided to just Google Islam. She read the first page of the second chapter of the Quran, and the experience was just electric. She said she couldn't stop crying. It was like a light bulb went off in her head and her heart at the same time. It just felt like she was finally home. But here's a reality check. The journey isn't always that smooth, and where you get your information from matters a lot. A Jewish woman from New York was told to read the Quran, but the first copy she picked up was this hostile, super inaccurate translation from the 1890s. The first verse she read was so offensive, she just slammed the book shut, totally angry and disillusioned. Thankfully, she was encouraged to find an authentic source. And when she did, the message was completely different. Night and day. Instead of hate, she found these beautiful verses describing the stars, the animals, the sky, all of it pointing to a magnificent creator. The Quran itself was making a case for God's existence through the sheer wonder of the natural world, and that just clicked with her. So you've got this intellectual curiosity, which then grows into a deeper faith. But so often, that whole journey is marked by a single, powerful, transformative moment, a turning point where everything just makes sense. For Daisy, the missionary, that moment was purely sensory and spiritual. She was all alone on a mountaintop in Saudi Arabia when the Azan, the call to prayer, started echoing from mosques in every direction. She said the sound just completely enveloped her in a way she could never truly describe. It was this feeling that there was something truly special there. For Selin, it was a moment of just profound emotional yearning. She was looking out from her balcony in Cyprus and saw these men in prostration during their prayer. Just the sight of their complete submission to God was so powerful it brought her to tears.
And right there, in that moment, she prayed to God, please let me feel that one day. I want that kind of devotion.
For another woman, the turning point was absolutely terrifying, a moment that felt like a direct message from above. Her brakes failed on the highway while she was going over 90 miles an hour. In that split second of panic, she made a promise to God, save me and I will spend the rest of my life on your path. She says that as soon as she made that promise, she pressed the brake pedal one last time and it worked. That promise changed everything for her. You see, for so many, the intellectual journey becomes real in the physical act of prayer. Daisy described her very first prayer, her first salah. A woman guided her head down to the floor, and the moment her forehead touched the ground, she said she was just overwhelmed with an emotion so powerful she couldn't stop crying. And that one single act, the prostration, the sajda, is described over and over again as this moment of profound, real humility. It's like a physical representation of finally recognizing a power so much greater than yourself and just willingly submitting to it. So after a turning point like that, nothing is ever the same. Embracing Islam wasn't just, a change in belief. It was a complete transformation of their entire lives. And it brought both this incredible peace, but also new, totally unforeseen challenges. And this new life really presents a stark contrast. On one hand, these women talked about finding a sense of peace and purpose they'd never had before. Prayer became a source of strength. Modesty became a form of empowerment. But on the other hand, the personal cost could be huge, from being kicked out and rejected by their own families to having to navigate all the prejudice and Islamophobia out there in society. But even when facing that kind of loss, there was this powerful gain. They discovered the Ummah, the global community of Muslims. And as Daisy put it, you might feel like you're losing one family, but you end up gaining a new, bigger one that offers just incredible support and solidarity. So, after hearing all this, what's the collective message from these women to anyone out there who might be curious about this path? Well, their advice is remarkably consistent and very direct. First, challenge the narrative you see in the media. Don't just accept it. Second, do your own research. Don't rely on secondhand information. Go straight to the source and read an authentic translation of the Quran for yourself. And third, connect with people. Find Muslims in your community and just talk to them. Ask your questions. Ultimately, these stories aren't just about one religion being better than another. They're about the universal human search for truth, for a direct connection to something divine, and for a sense of peace that finally settles the soul. And it kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? In this age of endless information and noise, what does it really mean to truly seek an answer for yourself?
Give your feedback if you found this information valuable, and do like and subscribe and support my work.